And into paddock, it's Winkelhock and Bincliffe together. The outside, Rickard Nydell is really flying into Volvo. And Mansell is way, he's been passed by Senna, he has been passed by Berger, he's been passed by both the McLaren.
Welcome to Track Mode.
And today we're on the Brands Hatch GP circuit, driving the McLaren 620R.
Now, Abbie, we've driven our fair share of McLarens, it's fair to say. I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but I do have you on record as saying that some of them were not as dramatic as you'd like. Is that correct?
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, I've driven some fantastic McLarens, but some of them I find just maybe lack a little bit of emotive expression.
Okay.
You know, Lamborghinis and Ferraris are very theatrical, they're very shouty.
So something with race car DNA,
Yeah,
a roof scoop,
yeah.
optional slicks. Do you think they'll be dramatic enough
I'm
for you?
intrigued, I'm intrigued, put it that way.
At the moment the forecast is not looking too good, so I think we might actually need a set of wets instead of a set of slicks, but hopefully it will stay dry. We'll be able to bolt the slicks on and give you the usual track mode, flat out lap guide at the end of the day.
Stick around to find out. It's not often you see a road car based on its racing counterpart, let alone one with considerably more power. However, when you consider the performance caps being imposed in many GT championships around the world due to balance of power, it starts making sense how this came to be. The 570S GT4 that this car is based on is limited to between 400 and 540 brake horsepower. No such disparities here. 620 goes not only for the model designation but also power and torque. The 3.8 litre twin-turbo V8 and 7-speed SSG are good for 0 to 62 in 2.9 seconds and a VMAX of 200 mph. It borrows the GT4's motorsport dampers with up to 32 settings for bump and rebound. You can also spec it with a 600 LT's active suspension, but if you really want to cover all entry, mid and corner exit aspects, the motorsport setup is the one to go with. The front splitter and dive planes are a blunter version of the ones in the race car to comply with pedestrian safety regs, and the huge rear wing is the exact same one, albeit with an integrated brake light. One thing you won't find in the GT4 is this carbon fibre roof scoop, which replaces the side air intakes. Performance gains? Marginal. Enjoyment gains? Substantial. It's literally like the car's breathing.
It sounds mega.
One final party trick is the option of removing the Trofeo R's you drove here on and bolting on the custom-made 20-inch rear and 19-inch front Pirelli slicks. The whole package comes up to 1,386 kilograms, making it the lightest, most powerful, most uncompromising and most track-focused car in the McLaren Sports Series, which is just as well, as if you come to Brands GP with a half-hearted approach, you might as well stay at home.
Of all the circuits we've covered so far on this show, Brands might just have the most unassumingly random origin story. For if one day in 1926, Ron Argent hadn't stopped to check out a mushroom field on the way back from a bike ride with his friends, he would have never noticed the amphitheatre-like shape of the Brands farmlands and would have never asked the landowner's permission to carve out some dirt roads, eventually turning the place into their own personal makeshift velodrome. A seemingly inconsequential turn of events that escalated beyond what any of them could have imagined at the time. Nowadays, Brands Hatch really kicks things off with a bang. Paddock Hill Bend is the very first corner, and together with other world-famous corners like the Raidillon at Spa and Corkscrew at Laguna Seca, it fits into the you have to see it to believe it category. Not until you've driven it can you really comprehend the sheer gradient and compression this corner throws at you. What goes down must come up though, so up it is, all the way to Druids, a technical 180-degree corner that sends you back downhill yet again towards Graham Hill Bend. The short Cooper Straight leads you to Surtees, and here, if you were tackling the shorter Indy circuit, is where you'd be turning right at McLaren. Ironically, this is the one corner we'll be skipping today, as we turn left to follow the GP layout all the way down to Pilgrim's Drop.
Me, I don't know about you, but the first time I saw this, I was like,
Duck the bridge and watch the ground vanish from under your wheels before getting on the anchors for Hawthorne Bend, a Sendy corner named after one hell of a Sendy man. From here on, it's curb mullering time, with Westfield, Dingledale, Sheen and Sterling's coming at you quicker than you can say track limits are just a suggestion. quick pulse check down clearways before absolutely banzaiing it around Clark Curve and heading down the anything but Brabham Straight and bracing yourself for plunging down paddock once again.
You've got carbon ceramic.
To be honest, I would have preferred a bit of a firmer brake pedal, but it is a car that you might have to drive home at the end of the day, so there's always going to be a little bit of a compromise there. It's not like it stops it stopping, you know? I mean, we're 5 laps in and the brakes are still on point, so...
Yeah.
Nice.
She's quick.
Yeah, in the shot. See? I told you.
The first time I drove Brands was British GT, and I'd actually never been on the circuit before the race weekend, so I taught myself on the sim, or at least learned the circuit on the sim. And it does not prepare you for the undulations of the track. You know, you think, yeah, it goes uphill a little bit here, but until you're on the circuit driving yourself, it's next level. And I remember going out in free practice and I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, oh my God, the hill here is so big. And as you say, there's a car in front, they disappear for a moment.
It's exactly that.
2 years after its inception, Brands hosted its first race, a showdown between cyclists and cross-country runners. In an upset for the ages, the runners actually beat the cyclists. The first actual motor race didn't happen until 1945, with the end of World War II, when motorcyclists started using the track whenever the non-motorcyclists were done with it. And in 1947, the BBC agreed to televise one of the meetings for the first time ever on British TV. Car people wanted in on the action, so eventually in 1950, after paying £14,000 to tarmac the whole place, the 500 Club held its first event at Brands Hatch. Cutting his teeth amongst the rookie drivers, a young Sterling Moss.
How are you finding the gears?
Alright, actually, they're pretty crisp. Yeah, it's all pretty user-friendly so far.
I usually hate when brands claim to have made a race car for the road, because you usually only get like a little part of it that evokes the race car, and it only really works as a marketing thing for people who've never been in race cars. But actually, this, the noise, how sort of sparse it is in here, and the lack of creature comfort, it evokes all the right race car vibes, I must say.
Yeah, it definitely feels racy to drive as well.
Absolutely. Something tells me we're not going to have any problem getting a clear lap today. I think it's time we go in and start tinkering with the suspension.
I want a bit more front end. A bit more front end grip.
What's the point of having 32 different settings and not play with them, you know? Bear in mind, we've still got the slicks to try. Stick them on.
Now, if you're lucky enough to have a McLaren technical crew with you, you don't actually need to put the slicks on yourself.
This is the unglamorous part of it. They tell you, you know, you can just bolt some slicks onto your road car and
Away you go.
away you go. Never mentioned the 2 or 3 laps of warming them up, of constant on-off, on-off.
In January 1960, Kent County Council gave planning permission for the extension of Brands Hatch, doubling the length of the circuit with views to host the F1 Grand Prix in the near future. Eventually, the British Grand Prix did visit Kent in 1964, and Brands committed to sharing it alternately with Silverstone from then on. The Brands round was given the courtesy title of European Grand Prix, and the organisers pulled out all the stops. It was such a success that when it was Silverstone's turn to host the F1 in 1965, Brands hosted its own non-championship F1 race called the Race of Champions, which itself was so successful they started holding it every year, even when they also had official British Grand Prix hosting duties. These Race of Champions sister events often produced as good as highlights as the legit races, like when McLaren got their first Formula 1 victory in 1968 at the hands of Bruce McLaren himself. Or in 1973 when James Hunt made his official Formula 1 debut here before his official Formula 1 debut at Monaco. Or in 1983 when the last ever Race of Champions was held, clashing with official F1 testing at Paul Ricard, and half of the team still elected to come race at Brands anyway. proving just how loved the circuit was.
Frank Williams, the Williams team owner, is regarding this race as being as important as a Grand Prix. He says, I am here to win. Keke Rosberg only knows one way to drive, and that is to win, and he's certainly showing it.
And although F1's visits came to an end shortly after in 1986, these were truly the Brands Hatch golden years. Anyway, those slicks should be just about ready by now.
Unleash the 620!
Dive bomb, sorry.
I'll give you some hazard lights, but I don't know where they are.
It's mental, this is a road car.
Not at the wrong time, mate. No. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to die here.
Yeah, I quite like it.
Yeah.
When you buy the car,
Yeah,
do they give you a set of slicks?
it's optional. That's on top, come on.
You mean
You paid a quarter of a mil.
and I've got to buy a set of slicks?
You need it, come on. What do you want? Do you want your bum washed with rose water or something? Or?
I would be saying, give me the slicks.
Look, there's no denying the price tag is on the steep side, but remember, capped at 350 units, you're buying into a pretty exclusive club, meaning the chances of you coming across another one of these are next to zero. Wait, what?
Come on. Well, our front end might not be perfect, but it's better than his.
Sadly, it turns out that if one 620R triggers some noise monitors sometimes, two 620Rs trigger all the noise monitors all the times. So after being shown the wrist slap flag, we decided to head back in to prepare for our fast lap. But one important hypothetical issue had to be tackled first.
Black or orange?
Oh, I would go for that. I'd go for that black with the orange
It's quite
details.
nice with the...
It looks like the new 720S GT3X.
yeah.
It looks so sick. It's exactly the colour I'd go for if I had £250,000.
You got a clear track in front of you now, go.
Legend, thank you.
So into Paddock Hill, nice straight line for braking, careful of the bumps on entry, off the brakes, carry the speed in, late apex, over to the left, use all that track width, careful of the compression, middle of the road on the way into Druids, really get it slowed down, be patient with your power here, keep it hooked up, point where you want to go and then nail it. Careful of the exit for track limit sensors, over to the right, really work to get it there, late apex through Graham Hill, again track limit sensors on the way out. Left-hander onto the GP circuit, middle of the road again to get that straight entry, late apex here looking for the inside curb and then full power on the way out. Nice long straight here with a little kink in and a big compression at the end. On the brakes fairly late, roll off the brake, carry that speed all the way in, late apex, balance the throttle, then pick it up on the way out. Braking fairly early here, down again, hook the inside curb, really straddle, now to the left, get that wheel straight. Good, middle of the road, then bring it to the right, little compression, let it go left, down a gear, off turn early, carry speed, use all the road on the way out. Keep it going, right hand side. On the brakes now, down a gear, turn, earlier than you think, there's camber on the road there, they'll help the car grip. And into clearways, onto the main straight. Again, fairly late braking, inside apex, quite early, let the car flow to the left, use all the road on the way out. That's it, squeeze the power as much as you dare. And that is a lap of Brands Hatch GP circuits. Nice. We've got a clear lap. Woo! Finally.
Oh man,
Nice, huh?
that is insane with the slicks.
It just gives you that extra bit of confidence, doesn't it?
haven't McLaren come a long way?
Yes.
Like, come on. I know what you were saying about, you know, some other brands having the drama and all that stuff, but you got to bear in mind, like, they've been doing this for what is essentially a decade or so of building, you know, road cars. So, yeah, okay, as a brand, they're not perfect, but which brand is? You know what I mean? Like, and I know a lot of people weren't happy about the build quality at first, but you know, what happened at Silverstone with the 911?
Cup holder.
They just popped out on itself. I think they've been suffering with a bit of a sort of round table negative effect, you know, where like online someone said something about a mate who had a bad experience with McLaren service or something, and then all of a sudden you've got like this people trying to sort of one down themselves, you know, when you're around a table and someone's always trying to whatever, and you just got people now who would never be in the market to buy one saying you shouldn't buy one, and people who can't drive saying X or Y or Z drives better.
Yeah.
It's bull, you know, like don't stop acting like it's not an aspirational brand, you know? Just, yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Do you feel better? Do you need to go in and have a cup of Yorkshire tea and a biscuit? It's okay, George. You're having a nice time. I completely get what you're saying, and to be fair, you know, I'm very lucky that I get to drive lots of different cars, and there are certain McLarens that maybe lack that, but actually this thing does not.
No, absolutely not.
I've had such a wicked day with it, and I'll tell you what, putting these slicks on transforms the car, and what a thing to have, you know, a road car, you can bolt some slicks on and it just transforms it yet again.
F1, touring cars, GTs, sports cars, rallycross. Brands Hatch has been the stage of it all. Its elevation changes mean endless natural vantage points, which make it one of the best circuits to spectate at. Combine that with its proximity to London, and there really is an argument for potential future upgrades that could, once again, grab the attention of the F1 top dogs. Of course, the counter-argument would be, let's not risk sanitising what is presently one of the absolute best circuits in the UK.
As usual, if you'd like to tackle Brands Hatch and you can't make it down here for whatever reason, we'd recommend finding it on the usual leading sims like iRacing or R-Factor amongst others. If you just want something more plug and play, Forza 7, Project Cars or good old Gran Turismo Sport should scratch that itch.
Well, thank goodness the weather held off for most of the day, because if I had not got to experience these slick tyres around Brands GP in this car, it would have been a very, very sad drive home. I don't mind that it's raining now.
I'm going to put my hood up.
It was so much fun. Did you enjoy it, Abbie?
I absolutely loved it, and yeah, as you say, it was really good that we actually got the chance to try the slicks out, and I'm really pleased that I got the chance to drive this because it's restored a bit of faith in McLaren.
Yes,
and yeah, it's given me a bit of love for it as well.
I'm very happy. Well, Brands GP, even with the rain, it's still not going to stop me from handing out the first 9 on this show. I'm going to give Brands GP a 9.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. 9 out of 10 for me. I love it. I love the circuit, and I wish we could get on it more often.
This is it. It's such an exclusive circuit that it really feels like an event, you know what I mean? So, from us at a very rainy Brands Hatch GP...
Don't need these anymore, do I?
It's going to be a bit of a wrap up. Once again, thank you so much to Want to Race for hosting us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you. It's hailstoning.
And as we were about to say before the heavens open, if you enjoyed this episode of Track Mode, here's a playlist with more episodes that you can check out right now. Remember to tell us which car and track we should drive next, and if you're not subscribed to Carfection yet, please consider doing so and help us reach 1 million subscribers by the end of this year. Thank you very much indeed.